1949. Shall we proceed? Yeah. Okay. Good evening, councillors, and welcome to this virtual meeting of Policy and Resources Committee of Tuesday, 27th of April. Item 1, to receive apologies for absence and acceptance, and I think we're all here. Yep, thank you. Item 2, to receive any declarations of interest.
No.
No, can't hear anybody. Item 3, to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of February 2021, Appendix A. I'll propose those.
Second, Councillor, Mr. Chairman.
Seconded. Right, any objections or abstentions?
No.
No, I'll take that as agreement, thank you. Item 4, to receive an update on outstanding tasks, decisions and projects. And I think actually, Deputy Clerk, I think we've covered some of those items in the previous extraordinary council meeting. Has anybody else got any thoughts on anything else? Councillor Stockwood, John Stockwood.
Okay, so thank you very much. Okay, so we've got a brief update on finance decisions that have been made. Perhaps the Deputy Clerk can jump in any time. So looking back, we do have some comments from the internal auditor about monthly budget monitoring reports being prepared for all and presented to all councillors and updating the financial regs. So as we've had that comment from the internal auditor, it's important that we think about it a bit and think about how we can respond to that comment. So one of the things we found is that there's been updates to our accounting software, Scribe, and we now have the position whereby all councillors can have a free account which has read-only access to Scribe. So when you have any councillor that wants to have a dynamic, up-to-date read-only access on our current receipts and payments system, could able to do that. So that's even more up-to-date than a monthly report that the internal auditor is suggesting. And actually thinking about preparing monthly reports puts a lot of extra work on those people involved, our staff, in producing finance reports, when it could be the case that we could actually move forward by just saying, well, if councillors, if you have a Scribe account access, you can read it yourself. You just print off the report every day if you wish, and you'll have a running exciting position on the financial position of the council. Looking at the way we do reports to council, there's an element of manual preparation that's going into each P&R set of finance reports. And that's because of particular aspects around how we carry forward creditors and debtors from the year before, and how that affects our receipts and payments position as we go through the year. It would be advantageous, even if it's just a minor streamlining of reporting. Administration is often a very small set of tasks that you do a lot of, and that ties up your time. So perhaps if we could just streamline the process a little bit, that would free up just a little bit of time every week or every month, and that benefits the council as a whole, streamlining our processes, which is actually something that comes through from the staffing review as well. So it might be beneficial if in future we accept the outputs from Scribe reports, rather than have them manually altered a little bit to correct things. And what's happening is that the reports are being simplified slightly before they're presented to council. Now, in the past, councillors have been concerned that having a lot of different information on a report means all the numbers are very small. But what we've, as technology has moved forward and technology of the council and councillors themselves, we're finding that councillors are able to look at documents digitally and zoom in if they want to see small figures. And also the council now has the ability to print at A3 to support those accessibility concerns of anybody who's concerned about financial reports with very small numbers on. So I do think there's an opportunity to move forward in a positive way, embracing more of the standard reports from our accounting software, and having councillors who want to see financial information have read-only access to the financial software. And I think that is an effective way of responding to the internal auditor's suggestion of more regular budget monitoring reports. I think that's a positive way that uses the technological tools that we have available as a council. It addresses accessibility concerns. I think we've got updated since as times move forward. I think it does shave off a little bit of time in terms of the manual effort is being done to reformat data before it's being presented to policy and resources. So I do think that's a positive way forward as an update on some of what's going on finance. Perhaps the Deputy Clerk could clarify any points that I've missed on that particular item.
Do you want to take the Councillor Wallace's question first, Chair, in case there's anything on there that I can cover, or would you like me to go through what Councillor Stockwell said?
Yeah, we'll ask Councillor Wallace if.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Deputy Clerk. I think that makes perfect sense in terms of members of council. Councillor Stockwood, my only nervousness is we have got 2 members of the public who are with us this evening, and ordinarily we would publish the accounts and the reports and the accounts as an appendix. And in fact, I think we have done this evening, haven't we, in terms of what we spent against budget and the bank reconciliations. And I do wonder how members of the public would get access to that information, because they won't have access to Scribe, I don't think, but I'm sure the Deputy Clerk's going to answer my question.
Thank you, Councillor Wallace. So it's not about taking the report into this committee and the public away. That will still happen. Basically, Scribe produces reports, and then we manually, for example, on the item 5 tonight, the accounts paid report, it's a Scribe report that then we take a lot of the detail out just to make it very clear and simple. So rather than that, the actual report that comes off the Scribe system will just be presented to you without alteration and removal of lots of columns, basically. So we remove, for example, the fact that it's net and VAT and then the total. You just get the total, so you'll get the whole report instead. So that will still come. Obviously, your reconciliations will still come. They'll be available on the website as appendices. They're available from the office if people want an agenda pack. But they won't be published on to the end of the minutes now as well, because the minutes of P&R are becoming very lengthy at putting these reports on. Same as the reason we manually adjust the budget reports for council is obviously we are an income and expenditure basis council because of our size and precept. What that means is we've got a large amount at the end of the year, for example, this year, that we hadn't paid for some play area repairs because they were outstanding. So we manually adjust the budgets for you to show that that was out of last year's budget. This year, moving forward, you'll just see what we're spending in this year, but I will be providing an adjustments report. So you can sort of check over that and say, actually, play repairs is over budget because we've paid in this year some of last year's budget out. So you'll be able to sort of, you know, go through that and have a look at where we actually are, rather than me manually changing it for you every month. So we're just trying to simplify as many of the reports that I alter for you and give them you in the raw form. So
thank you.
They will still be as appendices.
Fantastic, thank you. And a great answer.
Okay, so we're not taking anything away. We're sort of enhancing the service, as it were. Excellent. Okay. Can I ask, do we need to have a formal proposal, perhaps, to the next full council?
I
There's no
think I don't think we need a proposal. It's just how we report, as long as committee accept the reports that we give you, and as we move forward with sending them to the next committees, if there's any queries or concerns over what we're presenting, we can look at it again. Yep.
Okay. All right. So I'm not detecting any objections to that. Okay. Thank you very much, councillors. We'll. I don't think there was anything else to raise under item 4 that I can think of. I think we've covered, as I say, everything earlier on this evening. So we'll move on to item 5, to verify accounts paid report to the 31st of March 2021, Appendix B. In the packs. Any questions or queries on that? Comments? No, you all happy with it? No objections? No. Thank you. I shall take it that that's approved. So we'll move on to item 6 to verify the bank reconciliations. Firstly, A to the 31st of January 2021, Appendix C. Any comments or queries?
On the basis that they do reconcile, I have no comments or queries. Quite happy with it.
I'm pretending to be on top of the whole thing, but as I have a new tablet which keeps switching itself off after 30 seconds, I'm trusting the deputy clerk that everything's in order. Item B, the 28th of February 2021, Appendix D.
Likewise.
No comments or queries. And C to the 31st of March 21, Appendix E.
And again.
No.
Comments.
Okay. I don't see any objections or abstentions, so we'll take those as approved. Thank you. Item 7, to receive the budget to actuals to the 31st of March 21, Appendix F. Any comments or queries? No. Any objections? No. I take that as approved. Thank you. Item 8, to receive reserves expenditure plan to the 31st of March 2022, Appendix G. Anybody, any comments?
John Stockwood.
Councillor John Stockwood.
So, councillors, be aware that in the past we had a receipts and payment budget that had a lot of different line items for transfer to this reserve, transfer to that reserve. We now have a single line item in the receipts and payments that says transfer to the reserves plan, and then before you have what the reserves will actually be used for in terms of specific projects, not just named pots, but the projects of what it is that we're going to be using the money for, and our forecasted amounts for each one. This evening, we've been spending money from the recording audio equipment and induction loop, which is an old courthouse project it's third from the bottom, which is part of our planned improvements to the old courthouse. and I think there was another thing was linear park steps linear park bridges. Well, there you go. There's also works being done to the linear park steps. So there is a plan. It's suggested as we move towards the LCAS awards that we have a 3-year plan of what it is we'll be using our reserves for, and to explain to the public why we have the level of reserves that we have. The presentation before you in terms of financial figures has been simplified by the removal of the old system of a lot of different transfers to a single transfer to a new plan, which will be recorded as in a single code across the projects, and then details provided to councillors as the money is spent. So again, this is all about hopefully making some positive changes for a future of clear explanation of why we've got reserves, what projects we're working on, and what they think we're going to cost, and being able to communicate that to the public and councillors, but at the same time, slightly streamlining things again. So I think I thank the Deputy Clerk for the work done on continuing to improve the presentation and the work and the functioning of the 3-year reserves plan. Thank you. And also, it's technically, I think it's an income and expenditure, because there's money going into reserves every year, so it's not all going out. But I'll leave that as a minor amendment.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Councillor Wallace.
Yeah, thank you. Again, I find myself agreeing with Councillor Stockwood on the point. I mean, the key principle of accounts is that they should be clear and understandable to the users. And I think they are quite clear and understandable. As a taxman, we don't particularly like big bucket reserves for any number of reasons. But a clearly annotated reserve and clarity around the expenditure is to be welcomed. So yeah, I think I agree that I like the presentation of these. Thank you.
Okay. Are there any objections to it? No. I take it as approved. Thank you. Item 9, to receive an update on the car park project meeting held recently. Councillor Stockwood.
So yes, myself and Councillor Shelton met with a potential partner for the car park project. As you can see from the previous minutes, we've been collecting information from a variety of people who have an interest in our project, whether that's VIA for the bridleway, Network Rail for the impact on the railway, the details of the access road that are coming down, etc. And we've been putting that to our potential partner, and the outcome of that meeting is effectively that they will now produce a list of actions and a schedule for how that will produce at the end a new car park. So they asked for some additional information of the details of the contaminated or the contamination in the area. That's one of the key risks to the project. The clerk provided all the information from all the detailed reports that were produced when the contamination was first identified. And the simple story is we were told that that list of actions and the schedule would be available by the end of March, but clearly we're now in a PERDA period and people don't want to talk about new projects at this current time. But we're hoping to have that to council, for council to consider the way forward on to actually produce a car park as soon as possible after the election.
Okay, any questions or comments? Right. Okay, thank you for that update. And we look forward to looking at some serious suggestions. Item 10, to consider the referral from the Community Environment Committee in relation to activities and events in the marketplace. So remind me, Councillor Mrs. Stockwood, what was the item discussed?
Thank you, Chairman. I am unmuted. Yes, I'd like to run through very quickly what has been proposed, because some of the events are going to take place before we do start open meetings and things. The Queen's official birthday, not her natural one, is on the 12th of June, and it's proposed to advertise that we we do have something like a sing-along via Facebook, flags and bunting in the marketplace, invitation for people to decorate their homes, and encourage people to have a street party or in their own garden, like we did for VE Day. Also on the 5th of July, there's an NHS and key workers event. We've been encouraged to have this, and obviously I'm sure everyone wishes to take part. And we want to raise and display the NHS Social Care and Frontline Workers Day flag and banners. Have a 2-minute silence at 11 AM. The nation's toast to the heroes is at 1 PM. Afterwards, they are trying to encourage people to have a street party and afternoon tea at 4 o'clock till 8 o'clock in the marketplace, and clap for the heroes and ringing of church bells. And the organisers are hoping the government will announce this day as a public holiday. But in my opinion, this is unlikely. I am reading notes from Graham Hutchison, actually. So that's his opinion, but we'll have to see if that's forthcoming. And there's virtually no cost to those items. On the 7th of August, which we can, there are things that Bingham community events are going to hold, but there's no real reason to go into those tonight. The next community committee, Community and Environment Committee, will be able to discuss these at the next meeting. However, there is a cost involved to some of these, but I can say that they are keeping within the allocated amount that we've suggested for this year. Thank you.
Thank you. And I know that the volunteers of the Bingham Community Events Group have been very frustrated over the last year or so, and are obviously biting at the bit to provide some genuinely exciting community events for us. So let's hope we have a decent year for it. Any comments or queries?
John Stockwood.
Sorry, I've just seen your hand.
Thank you very much. So, you know, we've had a meeting. The chair of the Community and Environment Committee had a meeting with representatives of the Bingham Community Events Group. The outcome of that meeting is that there's a list of suggestions as to how we can have events and activities in the town centre or around Bingham as we come out of lockdown and move forward, as Bingham is a vibrant and a great place to socialise. There's some financial details regarding some of the events. You know, events have costs associated with them. The details have been provided very recently, so perhaps this meeting could note the progress that has been made and the fact that we welcome that Bingham Community Events are willing to work with us again in the year ahead on a number of events at a programme that can be developed, and we will look at some financial decisions within the council structure coming forward as soon as possible, so that they've got some clarity about the amount of time that they have to prepare for the events that we're able to contribute to financially. So there's been some late-breaking information. We thank the Bingham Community Events Group for that, and we'll move forward with it as quickly as we can within the council structure to make some financial decisions as soon as possible. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Noted. Okay, are we all happy with that? I think so, yeah.
So, Councillor Purdahan, my apologies, I was a bit slow in putting my hand up. Yes, the answer is yes. It would be helpful, I think, if we could have a look at what those figures look like, Councillor Stockwood, the ASAP. I don't think I've seen them previously, but don't have any principled objections to what we're talking about here. But it helps with planning if we can get together quickly to give some surety to the community events group.
The figures are an estimate, Councillor Wallace, and are very low for the items that I mentioned first off, and the ones later on in the year that will go through the council. But I did note that they are within the budget we have set.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on then to item 11, to consider the tenant's rent request.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Well, there's no appendices for this item, so is it that is this item relating to the fact that the tenant has agreed to move upstairs? Could the deputy clerk nod or shake a head depending on what the item is? Would the deputy clerk like to tell us what the item is rather than just me guess and bluff? Because I think it's about the fact that the tenant's been willing to move upstairs so that we can have a community no waste shop downstairs. And that in return for her accommodating that arrangement, she's asked for an arrangement that's appropriate for the fact that she's moved into an office that isn't fully made up to a certain degree. So I think it's we thank the tenant for accommodating the community interests, the community project that we were wanting to have downstairs. We need to make some new arrangement for the office upstairs, and the deputy clerk will provide us with the details, perhaps, as the way forward for this agenda item.
Thank you, Councillor Stockwood. Yeah, the clerk has spoken with the tenant. She was very happy to get moved upstairs. We were trying to secure some quotes for not just the decorating of the office before she moved in, because it does require redecoration. There is an area of plaster work that is going to have to be attended to. The tenant themselves has somebody that may be able to do this, but the clerk has asked this remains undone at the moment, purely because we are looking at our door entry system that is currently broken, and there may be some cabling that has to run through the office upstairs. So she's moved upstairs to enable the downstairs room to become available, but she is asking that until those the tidying up of that room is done either by herself or the council, that her rent remain at the rate of downstairs. And then obviously if that's a decision of council, obviously an indication of time frame from the council would be useful, please.
Can I suggest then that we give it 6 months before we have a review, so it gives people time to accommodate the needs of that particular office upstairs, and then we'll have a look at it. I'm not saying we'll leave it 6 months, but we can get on with stuff. Is that a reasonable suggestion, everybody?
Yeah, it's fine by me.
Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, that sounds reasonable.
Okay. I think given that there's an issue with the entrance security and all that, 12 weeks might be a little bit on the tight side. So you can agree something in 4 months or 5 months, but in 6 months we'll if nothing is resolved, then we will have to review where we've got to. But 26 weeks is a reasonable timeline. Okay, I don't see anybody objecting for that proposal. All agreed? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll take that as approval. Thank you. You happy with that, Deputy Clerk?
Yes, thank you, councillors. And if there's an earlier update, we'll bring it forward to the next meeting.
Thank you very much. Item 12, to receive an update on Old Court House matters, but in actual fact, I think we've covered it within the full council, because I think the loop system was on my mind. Can't think of anything else that was relating to OCH.
Councillor John Stockwood.
Councillor Stockwood.
So within the 3-year reserve plan, there's the updates to the security, the building survey, the furniture replacement, and the audio and the induction loop, and the recording of this system. We made a decision at a previous meeting about an enhanced recording system and telephone system that will be improving the Old Courthouse facilities as well. We've heard something about the induction loop. You just heard just then with regards to the office that there's an ongoing problem with the security system. If it's broken and it's stopping us from redecorating the office upstairs, I think this was the unfortunate issue where we ended up all being locked out of the building. If it's broken and it's slowing down and it's impacting on the progress of improving the office upstairs, can we have a timeline for when it will be fixed, please, so that we can move forward? Because I mean, we're having new people in downstairs. We're very grateful for the downstairs tenant being willing to move upstairs, and we've made an accommodation with their rent to support that. But there are still, a package of works needs to be done to make sure that the building security functions correctly if it's broken. So, is there an update and timeline for the security?
Can I just jump in there? Before we discuss this any further, I think we might be encroaching on matters that might be sensible under confidential. I don't want to be compromising our building security in a public meeting necessarily. So if you've got good news for us, Joe, then please by all means share it. But if you think perhaps it might be better discussed, where it isn't available in a live recording of this meeting, then we can discuss it under confidential, I would propose.
Yeah, just to reassure council, the building is secure, but there is a system that needs replacing, yes, and I'm in agreement, Councillor Purduhan. We can discuss the detail of the items that need replacing later on in the meeting. That's absolutely fine. I have got a little bit of an update just on one item, if you'd like me to give that, Chair.
Yep.
Obviously, as part of the business and IT continuity that the council considered a priority, this committee, it's just to make everybody aware that all staff have now got laptops. The phone systems will be switching over on the 29th. So if you can't get hold of us, we're not ignoring you. We're using new systems. So please bear with us. Send us an email. Will probably be easier towards the end of the week. I'm obviously going to have training on the huddle this week as well. As part of finishing that item off, we're looking at getting these screens on the desk, because obviously it's important, rather than the staff move from a large screen through to a laptop, that we're going to be obviously looking at having 2 screens above the laptop with a docking station. So the staff can work like they're on a main system, but have that flexibility of working elsewhere in the building, at home when required. There's no desire from our admin staff to work from home, but obviously, as long as we have got the isolation period still in place from the government, if a member of the family tests positive, it's useful to have that facility for all staff and that flexibility. So I'll be keeping you updated, but the screens is the last item on that sort of IT continuity that we were looking at before.
Thank you. Excellent. Any comments or queries? No. Okay, I'll take that item has been explored. Thank you. Thank you for the updates, and we'll come back to that particular item that I mentioned earlier under confidential items, with your permission. Okay, have we lost Councillor John Stockwood? Maybe we have.
No.
Oh, no, we haven't.
No, still there.
Okay, moving on to item 13, receive the committee and council meetings diary and format. Was this agreed when I wasn't able to log on? Was this agreed at the previous extraordinary meeting? Right, okay. Appendix H.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Chairman, I have got my hand up at a convenient moment on this, but anyway, I'm in your hands.
Okay, carry on.
Yeah, we did discuss this in the full extraordinary meeting, and as I understand it, we agreed that we would have the full council meeting, the full annual council meeting, as I understand it. That's the big one, which we appoint new mayor, etc. We wouldn't have that on the 11th. We would refix it for a date after the 17th of May.
Yep.
So can I take that date of the 11th out and as a sort of extra leg, is there another date which is going to be inserted instead, or when's that going to be decided?
I think we're very much obviously waiting for matters to unfold elsewhere, but we will have to be deft of foot, because obviously we will need to have a meeting during May at some point. So presumably a more firmer diary will be presented in the next couple of weeks or so. Do you have any comment, Councillor John Stockwood? I think I actually came in on the end of this item.
Right, so it is correct that the one date for the annual town council is, we've got a problem that it's not going to be the 11th. It will move back, but we're looking at how fast we can organise a legally valid meeting. Now, if the law changes and says you've got to be there in person, then we're going to have to make arrangements to see how we can do that as soon as possible, because there is a need to have a meeting in May. If the law says that virtual meetings can continue, then we can make those arrangements as we have done this evening and on other evenings. So there's a question mark over that particular meeting, but you've got a calendar before you of meetings for the months ahead. If you don't wish to make one at this evening because of the dynamically changing scenario of what, where, and how we meet, then you can defer it. But there will need to be an annual town council within May. It needs to happen. It can't happen, because of the lockdown arrangements. It's more likely to happen after the 17th, because that's, the lockdown is less severe and larger events are allowed. The general trend is that we're very much keen to see the end of lockdown as soon as possible, and to the very successful vaccination program. But you have produced a calendar of meetings for the months ahead, and so other than that one meeting that's a bit vague, you're as chair of the committee, and you've done the work on producing a calendar. Do you want to, as the committee, to consider the calendar that you've created for that supports the committee meetings that the councillors voted on to exist at the current point in time?
Well, I think the best thing is for us to agree that we need to be flexible, certainly in the next few weeks, literally. So it's a direction for us up to November, and let's agree that May is going to be fluid, and possibly June. Who knows what we're actually going to be faced with in the next few days? Because I think it's imminent that we're expecting some sort of result. Councillor Shelton.
I agree that the calendar we've got should stay. It does actually state on the reverse side of the sheet that the above calendar meetings is only a guide and may be subject to change. I think that caveat is on that, and that could happen to any, depending on what the situation is with COVID-19. If we can keep on the top of it, yes. If not, we may have further problems.
You beat me to it. Deputy Clerk.
It's just for council to know that it is quite important that specifically with planning we are working towards the next date that's on the calendar, because obviously we have planning applications coming in, and if we are not going to make decisions in time, we've got extensions to certain dates. So I would very much like the committee steer on if the dates are acceptable, but like we say, subject to change. So we've got a format to work to specifically for planning as we need to liaise with the borough.
Yeah, well, we've got the guide, and we just, for the council meeting, we just need to be a bit flexible. That's I think planning can live with what's in that list, really. Okay, is that a reasonable suggestion, councillors?
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm pleased.
Okay. And obviously, as soon as our thinking is known, we'll obviously put proposals to everyone. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your support on that. Item 14, to consider the referral from Recreation and Amenities Committee in relation to the Town Council's open spaces being used by community groups and businesses. And this was an item that I was going to ask if the discussion is still going on, but that perhaps wouldn't be taken as a joke. It certainly went on for quite some time in that particular committee. And this was all about, I think we had an inquiry about somebody wanting to effectively hire a space on the Cogley Lane play area for some sort of exercise class. All very commendable, but some members of the Recreation and Amenities Committee did actually get quite concerned about various issues that might arise. For example, people parking cars on Cogley Lane or the corner of Abbey Road and such like. So we could be getting into all sorts of issues. We have a suggestion. Are you able to succinctly encapsulate what our thinking was, Joe, when I had a discussion with you?
Yes, so the boot camp that did actually approach the council, there is actually a boot camp now using the outdoor space down at Win Hill. Separate to the 2 pitch areas, there is another green area down there. So obviously these are all council owned, but they'd have to approach our tenants to book those spaces. So we can obviously ask the tenants in those areas to support the use of those outdoor areas, bookable obviously through themselves, because they'd be responsible for checking documentation. I think the only concerns were with reference in the Recreation and Amenities Committee at the actual parks being used was earlier in the meeting. We've approached the County Council about traffic around Wychwood Road, Cogley Lane concerns about people leaving the park. So it's just the play areas that were a little bit of a concern to the committee for the fact that they're in residential areas and cars parking, but there was support from the committee that obviously they would like to see some of the green spaces that the council own used for these kind of activities. And obviously we have got those in the form of Buckfield and Win Hill was the discussion that I had with yourself.
Where there are suitable parking spaces, of course, by arrangement. Is everybody happy with that proposal, solution?
Agreed.
Yeah. It's fine.
Good. Excellent, thank you. Moving on to receive any correspondence, item 15. No.
Nothing for myself, no.
No correspondence, okay. All right, that takes us to the end of the public session.
Can I comment, please? I put my hand up when you asked about correspondence.
Sorry. Yes, I see your hand now.
I had a phone call from a gentleman who was concerned about the rugby field, broken glass being left. And I know that this has now gone to all the various parties that need to, but just to let you know that that came through to me.
Well, thank you. And if you can convey that the appropriate parties are on the case, as it were.
Yes, I have done already.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so given that we've come to the end of the public session, we'll move on to confidential business, and I'll move this proposal to resolve that in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted, the press and public be excluded for the remainder of the meeting. I propose, do I have a seconder?
Mr. Chairman.
Seconded by Councillor Shelton. Are we all agreed? Any objections or abstentions? I think we're all agreed on that one. Thank you. Okay, see you on the other link.
Thank you.
Thank you for attending.